Welcome back to Alpine Garage Sports, folks. My name is Chris. We're in the garage today, and we are doing damage control on our stunning loss to Stanford at home at Folsom Field. We're going to be going through two different sections of the game. We're going to be giving you the positives, the things that we can build off of, and then we're going to go through the negatives of the game and do it constructively so that we can understand what happened, how we can fix it going into the UCLA game. And remember, folks, we have 2 weeks until the next game, so let's not get too down. We're going to talk about all that and more on this episode of Alpine Garage Sports. Stay tuned. So it was such a stunning loss that I did not do a wrap-up video yesterday. I had to somewhat contain myself and understand that I think we all knew at some point in the season that we were going to have a devastating loss. And maybe some people thought that we had that devastating loss against, for instance, USC because we were coming back in that game. We had the first half handled. It was handled completely. And then we lost it in the second half. We actually flipped what we normally do. We normally are terrible in the first half. We are great in game winning in the second half. So let's go through those real quick and determine where our positives were, what we can take out of this, and then what the constructive negatives were that we can fix going into the UCLA game. So first, the positives. Obviously, a positive is going to be Shedeur Sanders. Again, at 400 yards, smack on 400 yards. He was 33 for 47 with one interception. Now, obviously, that one interception was a key interception in the game. It's still just one interception to 5 touchdowns. So when you're talking about a quarterback that you need to have on a winning team in order to take them to a bowl game or to even a winning season at that point, Shedeur Sanders is our guy. He showed us exactly what he was made of yesterday. I don't want to get down on him because it was a single mistake in the game that maybe some people remember this game for, but I see 400 yards and 5 touchdowns from an amazing quarterback. Second was Travis Hunter. 13 receptions for 140 yards, and he led the team in receiving. And quite honestly, some of his catches, specifically the one in the end zone where he just got absolutely filleted, was a stunning, stunning reception. And it was a fantastic re-debut from a guy that's been out for a couple of games. He couldn't contain number 13, which we'll go over a little bit later. But honestly, nobody could. Stoutmeyer couldn't contain him. No one that was on that guy, especially in the second half, could contain him. He was on a tear. It was his day. And I'm not going to blame Travis for that because really, I don't know that there's anybody in the country that could have contained 13 yesterday. Xavier Weaver, let's not overlook him. 124 yards on 7 receptions. That's a fantastic game. And he came through for us in a lot of pinch moments. And without him, we couldn't have done as good as we did in the first half. And lastly, which was one of the keys to the game that I stated earlier in my pregame show, is we've got to get past this first half doldrums, man. It was like we could not get the ball going in any game in the first half, it seemed like. It got worse as the season went on, but we finally dispelled that. We came out 29 points in the first half. We held Stanford to 0 points. Let's remember this. Even though the second half was a completely different tale, we finally proved that we could get out there on the first series that we had and score a touchdown, and we could dominate a first half of football. Okay, now, that said, those were all of our chips and we cashed them in. Let's go through the negatives. These are constructive negatives, and I'm going to give you my constructive point on each one because I think that the coaches can build on this going forward. We allowed number 13, Alec Ayomanyor, to basically run over us starting in the second half. It really kind of broke our backs on that 97-yard touchdown reception from him. As you watched throughout the game, you saw Carter Stoutmeyer not be able to contain him. Went to the sidelines, coach gave him an earful, and you could tell that Carter was not all that happy about it. So they switched it quickly to Travis, and man, Travis didn't have much better luck. It was number 13's day that day, on the 13th of October. I mean, who would have seen it coming? I mean, that's it right there. It was Friday the 13th, and number 13 from Stanford decided in the second half that he was going to take the game upon himself and get 300 yards on his own in order to win the game. And honestly, that catch behind Travis Hunter's back, he's going to make that his poster for the rest of his life. I mean, to catch a ball like that in that manner against the best defensive back in the country, that's something to hang your hat on. And I'm not giving any undue props here. I mean, this one guy really just absolutely sizzled us. And honestly, I didn't even bring him up in the pregame because I honestly didn't think he would be that big a deal. I thought it would be the two running backs that would have the bigger game. So I didn't see it coming. They didn't see it coming. Our defensive backs certainly didn't see it coming. That was an unbelievable show. We have some bigger receivers that are coming at us here in the next few weeks, and we've got to understand how we can shut these guys down. And I think we have the people to do it, quite honestly. I think this game is going to humble us to the point that Coach Prime is going to take it upon himself to get in there with the defensive backs, and we can correct this. I honestly think that we can put the heat where we need to get this moving. Another negative, not only was Shedeur our number one rusher, but all of the quarterbacks in the game, the two for Stanford and Shedeur, were all the number ones in the game. The rushing game was ridiculously bad. This is a constant thing we continually talk about. There were moments in the game where I thought we should have rushed the ball where we didn't, and there were moments in the game where I thought we should rush the ball and we did, and we got stuffed like on that goal line stand that Stanford had. So I don't have any constructive things to say about a running game right now. I honestly still feel like this is something that we need to stick to. We need to, going forward, we can't just expect Shedeur to bail us out of games. We've got to get this running game going, and that may mean, like I was talking about before, the running back by committee. We still have not seen Smoke. We still have not seen Offerdahl. I still think there's opportunity here to get some more people into the game to see if we can unlock this. The missed field goal by Mata. Now, I'm not putting this game on Mata. He saved us in the last game. We only had one attempt. It was at home. It was unfortunate that the ball didn't even make it to the goalpost. Our kicking game still has some jitters in it. It's not specifically him. Jace Feely had issues as well in previous games. There's just something about this kicking game that is a little off. And that I'm going to pull that as a negative because we still talk about the kicking game and we still have issues in the kicking game. I think we need to figure this out. That's going to be something that the coaches are going to have to unlock in the next couple of weeks because our field goals are going to be super important to us going forward. Okay, now the last two, and these are coaching. I'm going to call these coaching issues, okay? The first one was we had an opportunity on a fourth down near the midfield to punt the ball, and we didn't. We went for it on fourth down. We turned it over to Stanford on downs, and Stanford went and scored 2 touchdowns off of those 2 fourth down missed conversions, let's say. And that gave them everything they needed to come back. I understand completely the fact that we believe that Shedeur can do this. But we have got to start managing these games. These games, that's why I keep saying the running game is so big. I mean, yeah, could we win it on Shedeur's arm? In some games we can. But the good teams are going to figure it out, and they're going to take that away from us. Now, they didn't tonight. We killed ourselves on these fourth down conversions and penalties and things like that. But these other teams that we're going to be going up against, they know this. They know that we're going to try to air it out, and they're going to take that away from us if we cannot get the running game going. But that's the same thing with these fourth down conversions and the managing of the game. The managing of the game in the fourth quarter could have been better. We're going to learn from this. We're going to understand where our opportunities lie. And sometimes we just got to sit on the ball. Sometimes we got to do the smart thing in order to keep our field position and give the opposing team worse field position so that we can try to manage this game a little tighter. So I'm going to put that as a negative. Now, the last one and the biggest one was 17 penalties for 124 yards. This absolutely was, I think, the number one factor and the reason why we lost this game. There were plenty of series where Stanford was stalling and we gave them a rebirth because we had a penalty. Also, the illegal substitution penalties were ridiculous. We all know that. There's not a lot to say about that other than the fact that we still had timeouts remaining in the game that we could have used, and we didn't do that. In order to manage the game, sometimes we have to not worry about using those timeouts because anytime we use a timeout when we are doing something wrong, everybody gets upset about it. But the problem is when you don't, these kind of things happen, and they cost us significantly in the game and gave Stanford everything that they needed to come back. Now, what's constructive about that? Now we know that sometimes we are going to maybe outsmart ourselves, and the coaching staff understands now that we can lose games by making these decisions, or I should say not making these decisions. I think we're going to get better going forward. So I think that the coaches, this is exactly the loss that you need in order order to really change the mindset of how we're managing the game. So if you're going to take a loss, you might as well learn something from it. I think the University of Colorado did. Listening to Coach Prime's press conference afterwards, you could really tell that the wheels are turning. The wheels are turning. The wheels are turning. And the players, same thing. Their wheels are turning as well. What could I have done in that game to make the difference in a 3-point loss in double overtime? Every single little thing that happened in that game was the reason why we lost that game. It was. I mean, there were so many little things that happened that if we had changed that, we would have won that game. Let's not get too down about it, guys. We are 4-3. We are a winning team. This is a place that I would have loved to have been last year, and we weren't. So let's take the good. We still have opportunity. I'm not throwing in the towel on this. I still think we're going to be a bowl eligible team, and I think our quarterback is going to have one of the best seasons that a Colorado quarterback has ever had, and probably one of the best seasons that a quarterback will have in the NCAA in its history. So there's a lot of really awesome things happening. We're going to be okay. 2 weeks, give the coaches these 2 weeks, let them go in and make some changes. Let's get these people healthy and fired back up again. That's a wrap from Alpine Garage Sports. If you haven't already subbed to this channel and become part of the Alpine Army, now is a great chance to do it. We're going to be bringing you tons of content for the next 2 weeks leading up to the UCLA game. Join us in our journey. We will see you in the next video, and if you haven't already heard, we are 4-3. It's gonna be okay.